We start Wednesday's pod, Tales from the Couch. Okay. This really became a preference thing on what I wanted to focus in on here. It feels a little long in the beginning, but we'll keep it moving towards the end. A little zone fest for you early viewers. Yes, I start almost every day / night, early evening with Detroit basketball. That was not going to happen last night. Down 4 to the Sixers. Congrats to the Sixers. Still like Diallo, though. Still like him. But Detroit was missing a few people last night. So, Zone Fest there, Toronto against Charlotte, Miami doing it against SGA early on there. So let's dig into Charlotte at Toronto here for a bit. I don't know if there's much to talk about here with the Hornets. This could be an end of the season wrap for me. LaMelo, I float between, wow, this guy's amazing. He's awesome. And then there's other nights where I'm like, what is he doing out there? Which is probably not fair to him still, because if there's one lesson that I keep reminding myself of now, it's that we've had these incredible development stories that have been pretty unprecedented throughout NBA history, to have players that, look like they're going to be somebody, and then there's a step, and it's like, okay, that's probably who they're going to be, and then there's this next step. It feels like it's happening more and more than I can ever remember in watching NBA basketball, but it also doesn't absolve anyone from getting off to a slow start, because then it kind of becomes this fan default defense of any player that you spend a high pick on, where you just point to everybody else that's gotten good later on. Like, if your guy in the lottery hasn't scored any points, you're like, well, look what Kawhi did early on. He was like, oh, cool. Now he just has to be a finals MVP in like 3 or 4 years. So both are worth reminding ourselves of, but at the same time, that defense can be a little different. But look, LaMelo's far further along than some of these other developmental guys that I'll talk about. But he has these stretches where I just don't know what it is that he's doing. In the third quarter, he hit 4 heat check threes in 3 minutes, like bombs. But then you look up the numbers, and he's like 38, 39% from 3. Even though he's taking 11 a game right now, feels a little settle-ish, he's still at a really high number. So you can't knock him for taking those. I've always talked about his start-stop with the ball in his hands. It's pretty incredible for somebody his size. He sees things other people don't see. He had Van Vliet on him. He went right past him, then froze the defenders like there were safeties, and he was a quarterback, froze them with his eyes, and then just dumped it off to a big. It's not like the team is great around him. Mark Williams is finally starting to play a little bit, 9 games since Christmas. Hayward was out again last night. He's missed 21 of the 42 games. We know Rozier's pretty good. We know PJ's decent. Jalen McDaniels, I don't know. Really, it feels more like he's a Charlotte rotation player than an NBA rotation player. I know that he's built his defense. The handle's a little bit better than you would think. The shooting's dipped a bit, but I think he's 25 at the end of this month, which makes him a little bit older in the McDaniels that we get confused with that are in the league. And yeah, I already mentioned PJ and Rozier. The foul rate for LaMelo's up a bit more. He's fouled out of a few games. I don't know if that's that big of a deal. I think the weird thing is that he's so locked in and dynamic, and he keeps possessions alive later. He keeps his dribble alive later. He sees passes that other people usually don't see. And yet then on defense, he looks like a bored kid who's in a classroom who, if it's not his turn, he's just not interested. He's flat-footed. That's what leads to the foul rates. He takes really bad risks. He gets out of position. He just kind of falls asleep all the time. You're like, what is going on? So I think when you're thinking about him as like the one, you're going, okay, what is he going to be? Because that's the standard that we are going to hold somebody who is drafted that high, has these accolades early, but then you start to kind of get to that next phase of your career where it's like, okay, what are you going to be here? And at times it is so impressive. And other times I'm kind of confused about what it is and tempers maybe the ceiling expectation I have for him. So the reason I'm talking about him this much is they have the 3rd best odds to win the lottery and land Victor Wembanyama. The LaMelo angle with Wembanyama is going to be, if they were to get the pick, everyone is going to, I would say there's a majority, maybe not everyone, is going to start to say like, wow, think of the lobs. Think of the lobs. Going to be said over and over again. This would probably be one of my least favorite destinations for him. The ownership is terrible. People don't say it nearly enough. Jordan's been a bad owner from the jump, and he just isn't a good one. So that wouldn't be great. And the rest of the roster, yeah, there's a little piece here, something I may like there. I know that from a talent standpoint, the Bridges issue isn't Charlotte's fault. So losing that for nothing is not ideal. But I feel like this is a real kind of stuck organization. And I guess you would argue, well, adding somebody like Victor as the number one pick like changes everything. And in a way that it does, there's just other teams where I think he has a better chance to succeed and be the best version of him. Even if the early part of that, if they were to win the lottery again, we're months and months away from even thinking about this. There's going to be, I think, an overwhelming like applause for it because it would be, oh, these lobs. It's like, man, it's going to be a little bit more than just lobs from your one and center the entire time. On the Raptors side, they're 18-23 with this win. Only 7 teams have a worse record than them. It was back and forth. They put up 72, I think, in the first half. You're always worried about their offense a little bit because they can feel a little, no, it's your turn, it's my turn, it's your turn, it's my turn, without much flow to it. This is not the case last night. They also hit 23s, which is season high from them. They went on a 14-zip run, tipped this game over. Van Vliet a couple threes, who had been miserable from the floor. OG a couple threes as well. So then Toronto scores some points there. But I started looking at the offense again. Overall, the offensive rating higher than you would think. There's just some issues when they've had some of these half-court numbers that are terrible. And this has been something that we've seen more from them in the past. But 15th overall, and then the last 15 games, they're 15th. So there you go. Nothing great. But the record's still always a little bit more surprising unless you're locked into the Raptors every single night. Okay, Oklahoma City at Miami. Who wants to watch some free throws? All right, so Miami went 40 of 40 from the free throw line last night. Is that a lot? Yes, it is. It's a new NBA record, breaking Utah's from 1982 when they went 39 from 39 from the free throw line. I thought Oklahoma City was going to win this one. Miami, by the way, without Bam, Hero, and Lowry. That's probably very familiar now for Heat fans, just looking at the lineup being like, who are we missing tonight? Once again, an incredible credit to the front office and Spoelstra to piece this thing together and do what they're doing. Because I think a lot of Heat fans, I think I have this right, I think they're only 15-13 with Butler in the lineup. But it looked like Oklahoma City was going to win this game. There's an SGA 3, giddy baseline runner, and then there was this really nice play where I credit Miami for this too. They just were like, screw this, let's sell out against SGA. They played some zone against them earlier. I didn't see it as much late. And then it turned into 4-on-3, and it's amazing because then you have Giddey initiating your offense 4-on-3 on the other side because they sold out with 2 against SGA. And then he makes what I thought was going to be the game-winning assist that led to his triple-double last night for Giddey because so much of the defense focused on SGA. And they're like, somebody else go ahead and make a play here. And Giddey drives, reads it perfectly, little easy pass for him. But then that's not what happened, is it? Because Oladipo hits a 3. His month has been really good. 16, 4 and 4, 46% overall, 40% from 3. He's hitting 4 free throws a game. He's 31 minutes per game in this stretch. I don't know if people, I maybe it could sometimes be me where I'll think, wait, did I realize how few games Oladipo has played? And I know when you hear that, you're like, oh yeah, of course I have. Are you sure you truly know the extent of how limited he has been? So if you go back to a full season there, 19 and 20, God, let's look this up. So that Pacer season going into 17, 18, when he played 75 games, he was incredible, like all NBA level. Made his first All-Star team. Got off to a really good start the next year as well. Played only 36 games in 18-19. In 19-20, he played 19 total games. In 2021, he played 33 games, 9 with the Pacers, 20 with Houston, 4 with Miami. Then he played in 8 total games last year in the regular season and only 16 games this season. I mean, it's been 17, 18 with 3 different stops since he's played anything close to a full season. That's a lot of missed basketball. So he's been better. I know that everybody kind of looks at it as like at this turning the corner. I don't know that that's ever going to happen again. I just don't. God, that's a ton of missed time for somebody that was like really when at his peak special when he was athletic. Okay, so He hits the three, and then the game-winning play ends up being a Butler and one, which you could see this coming a mile away. I mean, he looks for the contact first, is strong enough to then finish. He's hunting free throws, I think, more so than ever in his career, even though he's at 8.2 attempts per game. There's 2 other seasons where he actually took more free throws. There's other seasons where his free throw rate has actually been higher. His advanced stuff for this season is off the charts for Jimmy Butler. He's also missed 14 games, which I think for an older player, when you're missing 25% of the games, a lot of your efficiency stuff is going to be better because it's hard to play a full season. But this is the scouting report on him. You have to stay down. You have to stay down. You cannot put yourself in a situation to be compromised defensively where he initiates contact, because not only is he going to do it, he's also pretty good on the N1 stuff too. So that ended up being the game-winning play. Miami wins this one. There you go. Okay, Cleveland at Utah. Jared Allen leaves this one, doesn't come back for the second half because of illness. Mitchell cooking his 5th 40-point game of the season. I think he only has 14 for his career, so he has stepped it up here in Cleveland big time. I really feel like he and Garland play the perfect complementary, like high-usage guard stuff with each other. It's not necessarily the most fun for the bigs. I was tracking Mobley's touches in the last stretch of the rotation from the fourth quarter when he came back in, was in. He had like 1 design touch, maybe 2. There was a 4-on-3 where he made a great pass, and then there was another play where he kind of off a roll. He took a shot, but you're just not going to shoot it a lot as a big anymore in the NBA. But what you hope is that your guards don't screw each other up in the process, and they don't. And they're both incredible from 3, 40% from Mitchell, 39%. So basically, let me throw in a little Lamar Stevens love. I know he's not hitting enough shots for somebody that was such a big-time scorer at Penn State, but I think he's important because of his body type against Kevin Durant. Like, that'll be the assignment if this is a playoff matchup, because they don't really have the other wings that are big enough to compete because, again, the guards are a little bit smaller, although Mitchell is stout and strong enough and the wingspan is incredible. So Mitchell should have always been a better defender, and he has been more engaged with Cleveland. So that's kind of what you're looking at there. And then Jordan Clarkson happens. All right, just so we're clear on what happened last night. It's 1:22 left in the game. Cleveland is up 107-102. Clarkson hits a 3, lands forward on purpose, is given the free throw. All right. I still wish we could get rid of this stuff. I don't want to hear about landing area. When you land into the defender's landing area, that should be your fault, not the defenders. I mean, this thing's a fucking joke. And the league completely overreacted to the Zaza Kawhi thing, and now this is what we have. We get to review it. So this whole thing takes a fucking week to sort out. He makes the free throw, so that's a 4-point play. But because it was ruled a flagrant, we're at 107-106, and they've got the ball. So then Clarkson gets fouled by LeVert because for whatever reason, Karis LeVert, even up 1 point with a minute left in the game, can't pay attention to what the hell's going on. Lets himself get kind of caught up into Clarkson's back. He does touch him. I didn't love the call, but even worse, like, LeVert, what are you doing? You're just kind of getting lost in all the motion, and then you let yourself get caught in a spot where you're going to get called for a foul. So that's 3 shots. Clarkson, of course, makes all 3 of them. In 12 seconds, this goes from 107-102 Cleveland to 109-107. Clarkson hit just a nasty runner against Mobley later on to make it 111-107. So there you go. A win for Utah. But Utah, not sure if you know this, they're the 10 seed now. Since they were 10-4, 11-19 overall. Yes, Sexton has mixed some games, but still, the Utah season playing out a lot more like we would think it would before the season got started. Okay, let's go now. I thought I was going to watch Golden State Phoenix, and I saw Phoenix's lineup. Ayton out, Chris Paul out. We know Booker's going to be out for a stretch. Both the Cams were out, but then with Steph Curry back, Wiggins back, Draymond back, Clay, who in his last 6 games has averaged 36 per. This was the Doc Rivers rule in full effect. Golden State was just getting run out of their own building. Somebody may have told his buddies, hey, check out the line for the live line in the second half because Phoenix doesn't have anybody and Golden State's just kind of stuck. Like, is this going to happen for 24 more minutes? And then it did sort of. And then Golden State looked like they were going to come all the way back, kind of. And then they didn't. So there you go. Loser. Sorry I gave that one out, boys. You know who you are. Let's go to Orlando. 89-84 in the fourth quarter. Orlando's up on Portland. Portland's got a full squad there. There's always a little bit of a fight with me when I'm watching it, going, all right, how are they going to use the guards? Because they had both Cole Anthony with Fultz in the game at the same time. Cole Anthony solo drive. That was the last we kind of saw of him. He's just going to have moments where he's going to decide, this is my turn, and there's always better options around him. It's not to say he's never supposed to shoot, but you get the point. I've probably mentioned this too many times before. All right, let's look at 3 specific plays for Orlando on offense late in this game where Franz Wagner basically sealed it for Orlando, even though, there was still a chance there at the end. Okay, so Grant is assigned to Franz in this scenario. Eubanks is playing center because they wanted to go smaller, because they were going smaller here at this point, and Nurkic also had foul trouble, which is not new, but he had a good game otherwise. All right, so Grant is on Franz, and Eubanks is kind of in the drop role as the 5 here. So Eubanks is calling out defensively what they want to do, okay? And you've heard ice probably a million different times. Icing, although there are different variations, and I do not know all of them. In this scenario, the way they were running this high pick and roll, it would have been likely that they were trying to ice it and send it to the sideline, right? Bring the big up, get this thing going in one direction, get it going towards the sideline. So we're only defending in one direction. You want to keep it away from the middle. Yes, I'm sure some of you who are more educated on it with the coaching backgrounds that you have would understand variations better than I would, or the terminology that would have to do with the variations. I'm just explaining this because Eubanks is screaming ice over and over and over again. And then Franz, there's no resistance around the screen and drives right at Eubanks and finishes. It was like, whatever you guys were yelling, you definitely didn't do. So then they run just a straight switch to bring Eubanks out. And so now there's no call. It's just, we've made the straight switch, and is Franz going to drive here, and how are we going to help? Well, there was no help. Franz went right past Eubanks. Actually, to Eubanks' credit, got back into the play enough to contest the shot, but Franz made an insane reverse. Then Portland got a little caught up in kind of that scramble defensively where you know who your guy is, but you're too close to somebody else that matters. And that's what happened with Grant, is that he was near Paolo. And then he was kind of like, well, look, I'm on Paolo now. So then Franz is on the other side. They run a quick little switch. Lillard gets stuck with Franz, and Franz just decides, there's no way he's going to test my 3. Hits a 3 right over him. That was 3 straight possessions where Franz had to read something different that they didn't do a good job with, then got the switch he wanted, just took it all on his own, and then saw another situation where he was like, I'm just going to take the 3. The drives from Franz are relentless. His IQ is terrific. And yes, I'm with our guy Cerruti here. I don't think he gets enough love. Late, though, Dame got Wendell Carter in a blow-by, which Wendell hadn't moved until Dame was about 10 feet away from him. And I think there were just little moments there with Dame going, he still can pretty much get whatever he wants on offense, even if we had some concern about some of the shooting numbers there. That made it 107-103 on the drive. And then Lillard got fouled on another call where I was like, I really don't like some of this stuff, but Lillard gets the 3 free throws. So now we're talking about a 1-point game, but it's under the shot clock. Fultz gets fouled. So it's 109-106. Your boy's on the couch. He's got the notepad ready. He can't wait to see what happens. And then we come back from, I think it was a Carl's Jr. ad, and the game was over. It was just over. Like, I never saw the possession until I watched it in the highlights this morning. So I had no idea what happened. And it's pretty crazy that I just got done talking about this. It was Carl's Jr., that new A1 steak sauce burger. So picture me home. We go to ads. We come back, burger time. And then all I see is 109-106 final. And everybody's walking off the court. That's what I got on my feed last night. I just did a rant on this. You can't have the Bowers play in the Peach Bowl, one of the biggest calls of the entire game. Was he out of bounds? Was it a first down? Is it a turnover on downs? Nope. Let's check in with Match.com and 7 other ads. And then you come back and we don't know what's going on. You can't do that then. You can't do that last night. I didn't really spend a ton of time on the Clippers because I don't know. I get bored watching Dallas. I'm sorry. and they were down big. I know Doncic got it going there in the fourth quarter. Kawhi had a season-high 33 points. The Clippers won at 21-15. They lost 6 straight, so it was good for them to get a win. In that stretch, in the 7 games, Kawhi played 5. They went 1-4 in them. But if it would have been closer, I was just watching it this morning as I was getting prepped and doing everything. So there you go. We got more NBA with KOC. Life advice at the end. Tales from the couch.